If 13-year-old you made a time machine and came to visit you today for 24 hours, what would you do with them? Wonder why the duck I'm not filthy rich now because I invented a fucking time machine when I was 13. When I was 13, I didn't have a lot of friends, so I think I would have appreciated a guy just being my friend. Maybe take me out for wings in a hockey game. 13-year-old me would have loved that. Hashtag X200B, then I would sit him down and give him a harsh talking to on why he had no friends. I tell him to teach how he built the ducking time machine, cause I tried when I was 13 and I failed. Plot twist, you didn't fail. You made the time machine and visited your future self. But, once you came back, the government tracked you down, erased your memory of the future and replaced it with a memory of non-functioning time machine. Or you saw what you'd become and went back to destroy the machine in a vain attempt to avoid that fate, but like a Greek tragedy you're doomed to spend your time here with us on Reddit. Tell them to look at the same ducking post from yesterday. I agree. Also, on the 1 in a billion shot that you're the ShamWow guy, I'm a huge fan of your work, you magnificent coked up salesman. Dude's in jail for strangulating a hooker, I think. Punching a hooker. Shampooing a hooker. Steal there, my time machine to go back in time and buy a ton of Bitcoin when that was still dirt cheap. I would just send 13 Yomi back with my savings in cash. He might keep some for himself out of skepticism, but I trust him to do the right thing for the most part. Not sure how he'll deposit it, but he's a smart kid so he'll figure it out. But it's also important to let them know when it'll peak and drop. Edit, for a lot of the same replies to this one. It was only 10 years ago so young me might have to sit on some of the money for a little while for it to be in circulation too. He's probably gonna have to go prepaid Visa Route 3. If he follows a different timeline that doesn't affect me, well good for him. Hopefully I don't need that money anytime soon. But I was thinking back to the future rules. Okay, but imagine your 13-year-old self walking into a bank to deposit banknotes that are dated years into the future. Yikes. That's what I was thinking, he would have to specifically seek out older cash to send back with his past self. Tell them to spend more time with a few people who are no longer here for me now. Hey man, have a hug. Thanks Udic Donut. For a second thought that's a duckin' subreddit I was so hyped Lamau. Rimjob Steve is. Wholesome content from a not so wholesome username. Holy shit. That's unexpected. And this sub has almost 400k members. He always said the nicest stuff, the decent thing to say. He told me once, you are enough, have faith you know the way. He told me once, you are the best, you are the brightest too, you are the first, and all the rest are second best to you. And that was all he said to me, until one winter's eve, I asked him what his name might be. He said, "'Tis Rimjob Steve." It amazes me sometimes how deep into a thread you can find a sprog. Tell them about cryptocurrency so they can invest in Bitcoin when they go back. Murder them, probably. I can imagine the news, man killed his own son and then himself. Isn't that how Looper ended? And Donnie Darko, kinda. Donnie Darko was more a sacrificial suicide, like a Twisted Christmas Carol kind of story where he ends up saving others by going back and ending himself in preparation of what is to be. Pooper, he straight up kills himself in order to save others in his past. I know that was a mistype, but I'm genuinely curious about this Pooper movie. It would just be an awkward interview. Do we become a scientist? No. Did we ever make friends? Not real ones. Do we ever become popular? Nah, we ugly AF. Do we ever date? Yes. Is he cute? He. Edit, thank you fought the silver. Ah, this hits so close to home. Telling my 13-year self that how she feels about Rebecca is most definitely a crush and not a weird friend thing would have saved years of confusion and repression. Edit, thank you for the silver, kind stranger. Well, that username checks out. In the alternate timeline created by giving her younger self this information, she's you absolute lie lesbian. Ha ha ha, took me a second to get it, but thanks for the laugh smile. Give her a big hug and tell her her school and home problems are not her fault and this is not indicative of the adult world at all. That it's just a phase of her life where everyone around her is acting like an asshole. I'd tell her that she's prettier than she thinks, smarter than she thinks, more charismatic than she thinks. Get him laid. That's all he wanted back then. Officer, right here please. Good thinking. Police knows where the best hookers are. Thank you so much, officer. My younger brother really needed them hoes. Our job is to protect and serve, sir. Speaking of which, here's some condoms. I would tell them that everything is going to be okay, I'm not a bad kid. I would tell myself to tell my parents to sell the house, move to a cheaper area to live with a less competitive high school so my performance would stand out better. I would tell myself that I'm not going to die at 23 and that college exists and that's why grades matter. Then I would tell Lil Me that I love them and I love myself and I am here for them and ask what is needed. Lots of love and gentleness because she's hurting a lot. I feel you. I wish I could show myself now the love I want to show my 13-year-old self. I would also apologize for being so hard on her. I'm 13-year-old now. Quick. Build a time machine. Let me ask mom first. So can you? Mom must have grounded Hiva from Reddit for asking. Or, it worked. If my 13-year-old self had invented a time machine, this would have already happened to me when I was 13, as I have no recollection of this occurrence. It either will never happen or I forgot. Now if it did happen and I forgot, that opens up a lot of new questions. There are many time travel theories trying to make that possible. Like linear, stream, parallel, wibbly-wobbly timey-wimey theories. Play video games together. 13-year-old me was pretty lonely and would have loved someone to play video games with. 13-year-old me would be hype as duck for the Smash Ultimate roster. 13-year-old me would never believe that Sonic and Mario would be in the same game. Spoil Endgame. Hey, they made an Infinity Gauntlet movie, but it's much smaller scale than the books, and the older brother from Goonies is Thanos. That sucks. Yeah, but Captain America and Iron Man. What? Those guys suck. Why didn't they make an X-Men movie? That'd be like printing money. Well, at least tell me they eventually made a Justice League with Dean Cain and Michael Keaton. Give them a hug and tell them to support mom, even if she gets on your nerves. Edit, maybe also slap myself while I'm at it lol. 1. Invest in Bitcoin but then sell in 2018 too. Spend some time with your great uncle. Nah man, you gotta tell him to have a different Reddit name. That's some truth. Explain to him all the retarded things I've done since 13 so he can avoid them, and show him all the great music I've discovered since then. Probably would not resonate with your 13-year-old self because he would have different taste in music and not understand all the retarded things you're talking about. Tell him to go back without doing anything. Every single action that I have taken, every mistake I have made has made a better person. I wouldn't want to take that away from him. Same, but instead of being a better person, I just want to make sure I still have my kids because a better me probably wouldn't have had them, but I love them and want them to stay the same. Advise my younger self to avoid some mistakes that I made. Hating things doesn't make you cool. People think you're mean, not funny. I know, it shocked me too. Men are allowed to have emotions. Keep your mind open when you start getting political. Actually dance at dances and get a haircut, nerd. I work at a very lovely university campus where I am also earning a degree. I'd take her for a tour to show her that her hard work in school will pay off one day. Then I would take her to our house to meet our dog, then on some hiking trails to perhaps encourage her to create some fitness goals. 13-year-old new could run a sub 7-minute mile. But with no encouragement, I never pursued sports and started smoking at 16. Other than that, I'd leave well enough alone. She doesn't need to know that mom would die in less than 6 years and a lot of other awful stuff would happen, too. She just needs to know that eventually she will beat depression and live a good life.